A lot of overthinking following the poll on the weekend. Julie from Mount Garnet said, I'm an overthinker of all that can go wrong. Just have to be more positive. Thank you very much for that, Julie. I am a bit of an overthinker. I always wondered, did I pronounce that right? Was my tone okay? Overthinking is something that a lot of people do a whole lot. I've even got a little bit of a sticker on my water bottle that says about overthinking. Dr. Jo Lukens is a psychology expert and she's here to help us understand overthinking. Good morning.
Good morning, Susan.
We both did a bit of overthinking when we were discussing doing this topic, weren't we?
We did, which again proves that we're all prone to it from time to time. It's a very normal human experience, but knowing a little bit about it and how to manage it is always helpful for most of us.
So what's the difference then between ruminating and overthinking?
They're very closely aligned, but there is a difference between them. So when we ruminate, it's, if I can liken it to back in the day when you had, or people still do, have a record on a record player and it's got a little scratch in it and that little bit keeps going on repeat. So when we ruminate, we think the same thing over and over again. So it's that repeated. So to ruminate is to really think and not move very far. I think the analogy was once given to me. It's a bit like being on a rocking horse. It gives you something to do, but you don't get very far with it, which is quite a nice little analogy. Overthinking is when we take that problem, issue, whatever it might be, and then we extrapolate it out to every possibility. So a little bit in line with some of those examples that you just shared with us. So we might think, what's going to happen with this, and what we think, about the 10 different things that could go wrong and so forth. So to overthink something is to come up with a whole range of thinking around a topic without really coming up with any solutions. And that's the key part of it that makes it unpleasant.
Catastrophizing, some may say.
So catastrophizing is definitely a very normal thing that people do, but we know it's problematic when it happens for us.
Yes. So why do we overthink?
We're wired to do it. Our brain provides us with this constant stream of commentary, doesn't it? All from the moment we wake up in the morning to the moment we hopefully drift off to sleep. And we're also wired to look out for threats. So we often talk about humans as having a negativity bias, if you like. So we tend to assume the worst, what could go wrong, and part of that is what keeps us alive. So it's a helpful mechanism, but we do know that we can, particularly under stress, get stuck on some of those thoughts, and that's why we tend to do it. And depending on what our previous experiences have been, stress and sensitivity and a whole range of other things, that can all contribute to our overthinking experience.
Is there anyone that's more prone to overthinking?
When I started to think this one through, obviously we know what happens is if people have had very traumatic experiences and difficult times and so forth, it makes sense to know that you might be prone for overthinking any situation where you might feel that life is unpredictable or out of control, if you're a high achiever. So I think I'm now starting to describe most people when I do that. But we do know that if you've got perfectionistic tendencies, you want everything to be just, which is nice in theory but very hard in practice, those are the kinds of times when we'll find ourselves more vulnerable to overthinking.
So then let's focus on the solutions. So that we're thinking, how can we move forward through or reduce those patterns of overthinking?
I think the first thing to know is that we do it and to notice it when it's happening. Yeah. So because again, we've talked about this so many times before, if we don't notice it, then we can't do anything about it. And we also need to know for ourselves individually what makes us more vulnerable. So if you know that you overthink more when you're tired or when you're hungry or any of those kind of factors. So if you notice yourself in a pattern of overthinking in a way that's unhelpful and you feel really unpleasant with it, do a little check-in with yourself and go, where am I at? What are my stresses at the moment? Because sometimes alleviating those things, go and have a shower, go and do any of those sorts of things, change your circumstances, can change the way that you think about it. It might be talking to someone that you trust about the situation, sometimes sharing an issue, talking to someone else can help with us. Get a notepad out and write down what is actually going on, because otherwise then we don't get so stuck when we see the facts in front of us.
Yeah, I tend to say, okay, I've acknowledged it, and I always say the words solution focused on this program, but I start to go, am I just looking at the problem or do I look at the solution? And sometimes producer Phil tells me, read your water bottle. He said, because my water bottle says, hang on, let me overthink this.
That's right.
So he's
trusted soul nearby through the glass, if you like. Maybe that's what we all need. We all need a Phil to check in on us.
We all need a producer Phil to call us out on it. So I think sometimes just, to go, okay, that's what it is, but what am I going to do next?
Yeah, and to take a breath and to look after yourself and to be kind to yourself, all the things that we say week after week, but those lessons apply in so many aspects of our lives.
Yeah. Dr. Jo, psychology expert, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.